So I've talked about a few Disney franchises, but unlike those franchises, we're going to talk about a Disney franchise that Disney no longer owns, a franchise that was a staple of Disney for a while in the late 90s and early 2000s, but disappeared very quickly into the latter half of the decade, and that is the Tarzan franchise, a franchise that started massively successful after the box office hit of the first film, but after low-budget sequels and a TV show that didn't last long. The franchise was put to rest after 2005 and Disney eventually lost the rights to the IP, and because of that it's very unlikely that Disney will give Tarzan a live-action remake. So what happened? Why did such an iconic Disney franchise fall apart so quickly and drift into obscurity away from Disney's grasp? Well, let's talk about the slow death of the Tarzan franchise. So Tarzan is based on the book Tarzan of the Apes by Edgar Rice Burroughs. A lot of the events in the book happened in the movie. Tarzan is raised by apes, becomes king of the jungle, and falls in love with Jane Porter. There had been other adaptations of Tarzan before Disney made theirs, but they attempted the challenge to make something that would stand out. In summer 1999, Tarzan was released, and it was a big hit at the box office, making over $400 million at the box office, and it was very well received. This gave Disney confidence in the Tarzan IP to spin it off into a franchise, and in 2002 the sequel/pilot to the cartoon was released, Tarzan and Jane. This was around the time when Disney was trying to turn their successful movies into successful TV shows. Sometimes it worked, like in the case of the Aladdin and later Lilo and Stitch show, but other times it didn't. The movie was trashed by critics and audiences, criticizing it for being a mash of 3 different episodes of the show stitched into a movie. The TV show had a very short run of 2 seasons and lasted from 2001 to 2003. While there are people that look back on it fondly, it didn't really make that much of an impact compared to other Disney shows and showed the decreasing interest in this franchise. Still, Disney decided to give Tarzan one more chance with Tarzan 2, which takes place in between the original film. Why is this called Tarzan 2? It's not a sequel. Disney did this a lot. They marketed prequels or midquels as sequels when they weren't. Only they actually stuck with this title. Anyway, Tarzan 2 came out in 2005 and people did not like it. Both critics and audiences agreed that this was another lame entry into the series. And after that, the franchise was dead. Disney lost the rights to Tarzan, which is why we never saw a Tarzan live-action remake. And instead we got Warner Bros. The Legend of Tarzan the same year as Disney's Jungle Book remake, oddly enough, in which Tarzan is basically the Jungle Book, but in Africa instead of India. We need a Mowgli and Tarzan movie, but I digress. Since then, the franchise has remained dead and dormant. So what happened to the Tarzan franchise? Well, a few things. Now I was gonna say that like all the other Disney franchises around that time, John Lasseter becoming chief creative officer was the main reason behind it. But Disney seemed to have lost faith in Tarzan way before he got his hands on Disney Animation. The failure of the sequels didn't help matters, and even though the show had success, it wasn't enough to give Disney the confidence to keep it going, and I think Disney realized that Tarzan had been played out and they had to look at other options. Unlike Little Mermaid, I do think you could continue this story, but the way they chose to do it was bizarre to say the least. Like, why would you have the last film in your franchise be a midquel and call it the sequel to the original, while your actual sequel is nothing more than a pilot to your TV show? And I know Return of Jafar was the pilot to the Aladdin show, but that at least had a 3-act structure and felt like a movie. This did not. It felt they wanted to make extra money, so they stitched 3 episodes together and boxed it up as a follow-up, which was an incredibly bad decision. The way this franchise should have gone is a sequel after the first, then the pilot to the show air on Disney Channel, and then later on if you want to do a Tarzan 3 that would be a good conclusion to the series. But no, Disney didn't think things through and instead thought with their wallet instead of their brain in the franchise, and the IP suffered because of it. The final nail in the coffin for this franchise is when Disney failed to come to an agreement with Edgar Rice Burroughs and his estates to extend their contract. They took their property back, which meant Disney could no longer produce any Tarzan projects or continuation of any kind. They couldn't use the characters for merchandise anymore, and of course, they couldn't give Tarzan a live-action remake, unless Disney and the Burroughs could come to an agreement. Disney longer owns the IP. Disney mishandled the franchise until it was no longer valuable to them and they gave up the rights and could no longer use the franchise, not in their theme parks, not in their gaming department, and not on their website. Overall, guys, the Tarzan franchise was a mess. The first movie is legit the most underrated film in the Disney Renaissance, and it deserves far more love and recognition than it gets. The sequels are trash. Tarzan 2 is not as bad as Tarzan and Jane. It at least had decent animation, and even a few additional Phil Collins songs, which was emphasized in the marketing for this movie, along with a reprisal of Son of Man, and a few funny and emotional moments. But other than that, the film doesn't really have a lot going for it. It's another generic follow-up to a Disney movie that got quickly forgotten about, as well as the franchise as a whole. If Disney had planned it out better and thought about how to properly map out the course for the franchise, then it could have been a strong franchise and might have convinced Disney to make another deal with the Burrows to keep the IP around for possible expansions. But as Disney messed it up and the franchise fell apart, I don't think we'll ever see this franchise come back. We'll probably see other iterations of Tarzan produced by other studios, but as far as an extension of Disney's Tarzan, it's very unlikely, and I don't think Disney has any desire or motivation to get the franchise back. They got so many other franchises to bring back that are more likely to make money, and they don't want to waste their time on a franchise everybody abandoned a long time ago. But anyways guys, what do you think? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys later.